Thank you all for coming. I'm going to talk about native and hybrid development with Liferay DXP. And as Ricardo mentioned, I work with Liferay Screens, but I also work with Vulkan. Brian mentioned it earlier. It's our solution for creating APIs that is going to revolutionize the way of creating APIs. I'm really excited about those two topics, about Liferay Screens and Vulkan. So if you have any questions whatsoever through the conference, please feel free to approach me and question me, ask me whatever you want. This is my old face, so but I'm still easily recognizable, so please feel free to approach me. And one of the common questions we receive these past years when we presented Liferay Screens or the mobile SDK in conferences was, does Liferay provide any other solution apart from a native approach to creating mobile applications? And that was the common question that you guys, that the audience asked us. Does Liferay provide anything other than a native solution? Because until now, if you wanted to create a mobile application with Liferay, you just had one approach that was doing a native application. So here we provided a lot of solutions, a lot of libraries on top of Liferay, like the Liferay Mobile SDK to bridge the gap between the Liferay APIs and the Android applications or iOS applications, and also the other clients. So we provided a push client in Android and iOS. We also provided an OAuth solution, OAuth integration, also in Android and iOS. But all those solutions were native ones. And that was okay if you wanted to create a native application, but that has a very strong drawback, as you already know, that you have to use an Android developer, an iOS developer, and you have to create two solutions, maintain two sets of code, so that's hard. And our main solution in the native space, in the native approach, was Liferay Screens. I'm pretty sure you guys know it already. It has been mentioned a lot of times, and we had a talk about it yesterday, so thanks, Francia. And Liferay Screens, it's a mobile library that is focused on the component idea. So we can have a symposium without a slide like this with Lego pieces. But the idea is that Liferay Screens is a component-oriented library. So instead of committing to a full solution, to a full architecture that sets you a very strong constraints, you can use just the components you want. So you can choose, okay, I want to use the login component, I want to use the DDL form or the web content, whatever you want. So that way you can create the application the way you want and just pick and choose the features you need. And because we know that the UI part, the UI layer is the most difficult to provide, because you will want to customize the UI depending on the client, depending on your needs, your colors, etc. Screens didn't set a hard constraint with the UI. So you just use the components, and if the default layout is okay for you, you can use the default layout. But if not, you have several sets of themes that you can customize and change the colors, change the layout, provide a new XML. If you are working in iOS, drag and drop several UI boxes, whatever you want. So the layout part is customizable to let you do the application the way you want. And we take care of the hard part, like connecting with the server, authentication, cache, offline, authorization, security, all those things. We take care of them, and you just provide the UI. So that was the idea behind Liferay Screens. So 3 years ago, we announced Liferay Screens 1.0, and we released it with 9 screenlets. And it was the most common used screenlets, like the DL form to support forms, web content to render web contents, login, sign up, etc. And then the next year, we released another 11 screenlets, getting to a total of 20 screenlets, with more advanced ones, like a PDF to render PDF files, or a gallery to render images, etc. So you know the trend. This year, we are here announcing Liferay Screens 3.0 for native development. And here we work hard trying to provide new features to allow you to create mobile applications faster. So we are announcing the total amount of just one screenlet. So it's not that we haven't worked at all on the year. It's that this is the most powerful of all. This screenlet, we have worked hard to try to bridge the gap between the things you can do right now and with the things you will be able to do in the future with your Liferay websites. So let's see which are the features of what we are calling the web screenlet. And everything you can see right here, it's rendered with a web screenlet. So, but first of all, I want to talk about the need of this screenlet. Why we think this is important? Because we think that the Liferay community, the Liferay developer community, is like this, not like a hot burning sun, but talking about most of you are web developers, and just a few of you are other developers, either native application, Android, iOS developers, or system backends integrator, whatever. Most of you are web developers, either from front-end or back-end developers. So being honest about this, we noticed that the solutions we were providing in the native space were not the best solutions for you because you are not used to developing in Android or in iOS with Xcode and all those solutions. So we wanted to provide something that you would do it with the things you already know, backend development or HTML development, to be able to bridge the gap and create a native an application, a mobile application. So another reason to offer this is because when you want to create a mobile application with Liferay, for example, you can do it either exposing an API with Liferay Mobile SDK or consuming an API. So you go to your mobile application and you read from those APIs. But sometimes happens, sometimes we get into a case that there are no APIs and we can't expose them for whatever reason, security, control, or the Liferay portal or the server we are trying to access is not ours, or it uses code that we can modify, and we don't have an API available. So in those cases, you don't have a solution. You can't create a mobile application. Either you do complicated hacks with a session and cookies or whatever, or you can't create an easy application from this. So that's another reason to create the web screenlet. So what's the traditional approach in hybrid development? You have your mobile application, and you want to create a mobile and hybrid application. So what you are doing is just using an embedded web view, that's a web browser inside the mobile application, and everything renders there. And if you want to do navigation, the navigation is inside that embedded browser that all the platforms call web view. So you just browse right there through several pages. And that approach is quite limited. So the users notice that you are not using a native navigation. So here, the navigation happens here in the browser, in the embedded browser. So our approach is different. We want to provide you with the tools to be able to do native navigation with hybrid content. And we are going to see right now how. This is the idea. What we want to achieve, what we want to get is something like this. So you have several pages, you have several activities, what we will call in Android, and you are able to do native navigation. That's the most UX and UA hard part, where the users notice more that you are not doing a native application, but render specific hybrid content in each of all those screens. You can just throw several web screenlets or several hybrid contents in an activity, or either don't use anything, whatever you want. You can choose. You have the flexibility to choose. And the other part is native. So the navigation or that specific content is native. So the navigation is native, and the users notice whatever transitions, animations you want, but the content, part of the content is hybrid. So that's what we want to achieve with the web screenlet. And this offers us several improvements. So the first one is that you can get hybrid content, but just where you need it. So if you want to create a very fast application, you can throw a web content in your application and just render everything with the web content. But you can then transform your application and start using native code whenever you want and wherever you want. Another one is mixed navigation. Again, you have the flexibility, you have the freedom to choose. If you want to use native navigation in the more critical aspect of your application, you can do it. And in the less critical, less important, you can use a web content, a web screenlet right away. And another one, the most important one, is that you have better user experience. You understand what the user needs, and you understand what he's demanding, so you can provide the specific solution for a specific screen, either in native or in web, depending on the critical needs of the user. So behind that new screenlet, it's a web view. That's how all the platforms, Android and iOS and Windows, call an embedded web browser, a web view, with vitamins. And we are going to see which are those vitamins, what is the benefits Liferay is providing. So the first one is authentication. You don't have to worry about authentication with Liferay. We are already providing that bridge between your Liferay server and the mobile application. So either if you are using basic authentication or auth tokens, whatever, our SDK, Liferay Screens, is going to be able to communicate and bridge that gap, authentication with Liferay. Another benefit, another vitamin of that web view is that we support any web. You don't have to limit yourself to render a specific Liferay content. You can just pass whatever URL you want, and you will be able to modify it later. So we support any web you want. Another one is that you are not limited in customization in one side. So if you don't own the Liferay instance, you can provide us with JavaScript or HTML files or CSS and customize that web from the client side. And if you want to just modify it from the server side because you think it's better for your client, or whatever the reason, you can do it. So you can customize the web that is going to be rendered either from the server side or from the client side. And another benefit, very big benefit, is that you have bidirectional communication between both sides. So you can send an event from your native code to the JavaScript, to the HTML page, and say, okay, call this JavaScript method for whatever reason, or vice versa. You can either listen, for example, to a click in a button, and then call native code reacting to that HTML button click. And the last benefit that we think that's the most important is that we are providing with Apache Cordova support. So this new web screenlet is integrated in Apache Cordova. Apache Cordova is the most popular solution in hybrid JavaScript development. That what it does is provide JavaScript APIs to native features. So we have lots of plugins. Specifically, we have almost 3,000 plugins that allow us to, from JavaScript code, call native code. For example, from things quite easy, like opening a camera to take a picture, to fingerprint sensor support, whatever you want, there is a plugin, Apache Cordova plugin to do that. So you can just, with one line, enable the web screenlet, the web view, to be able to support Cordova and to be able to embed Cordova plugins and use them right away. Okay, so we have developed this feature, and we already have real use cases to showcase the power of this screenlet. Specifically, we talked with our friends from Andorra Telecom, and they help us and they let us translate their website, their HTML website that is using Liferay to be able to benefit from this web screenlet. So they already had a specific mobile view with media queries and the things Liferay Portal provides. That was this website in the mobile phone. But it's, as you can see, it doesn't feel as a mobile application. So what we did is to pass that feature to a web screenlet. And we are going to show the different screens. So this is the website. We have just modified the client side, and it's rendering the same web pages, but from mixing hybrid and native content. So for example, the menu, you can see that the animations are native, but the content and this menu, for example, it's hybrid. It's just the web content. So the transitions between pages are native, and they feel like a native application with all the animations and swipes. But the content, this map, the legend, is just the hybrid content rendered in the web page. So they can reuse their existing content, but we just sprinkle, we just use native parts in some parts, in some pages of our application. And this feels native. This is the difference between other approaches. So what we are doing is translating our web page, rendering a small cell with native code, downloading those GSS files, HTML files, CSS, passing it through the mobile application, and then providing local files that allows us to render and to change the behavior representation locally, mixing them, and then rendering the web content as it was a mobile and real native application. And that has also Cordova integration. So when we click the will phone something, so it will open a native application, a native part that's calling the native dialer. Okay, so that's the API to do it. So we just define a configuration object. We pass it the URL and local files if we want. We can either choose that we enable Cordova or not, and just load the content right away. Okay, so it's pretty easy. And we are able to do things like this. This is a demo application created with the new Screenlet. That here, okay, all the content, all this list, the documents, the company news, that's blogs entry, or the gallery. Everything is rendered with hybrid content. Everything is a web. But the transitions between pages, the animations, those are native. But all the content, that gallery, everything is hybrid. And it feels like a native application because we are doing the transitions, the animations with native code, but everything is native. Although the screen is native, and here we have the Apache Cordova integration. So that's the new Screenlet, the web Screenlet. So we have one success use case right now in production. Our partner, Javier is in Spain, approached us to help them with native development. So please feel free to approach us if you have application, Android application doubts, or iOS, or native, or hybrid. They approach us and they have several use cases where they wanted to use Liferay Screens. And we listened to their feedback, and we were in that time developing the new Screenlet, and it was the perfect fit for their problem. And we saw it to them, and they were really convinced, and they have used it in their application. So they released an application for one client of them that's called Sasir. It's a very big company, infrastructure company in Spain, and they are using the web Screenlet in their application. So they are mixing hybrid native content with a new web Screenlet. So that menu is native. That's the default iOS menu native, but the content, everything, the content and the transitions, the carousel, those are hybrid. So that's one use case that you can test and try it right away. Okay, so with this, we have covered one of the drawbacks of the solutions Liferay was providing. So we are able to offer solutions in the native space with iOS and Android, with Liferay Screens, the mobile SDK, push, etc. And we are also offering one solution in the hybrid space, specifically with integration with a web view and Apache Cordova. But as you can imagine, the hybrid space is not only that. So we have talked about the web view solutions with Apache Cordova, but there is also another kind of hybrid solutions, like the cross-platform ones. I don't know if you are aware about the cross-platform approach, but we wanted to offer solutions in the whole mobile application space, not just limiting us. As Brian mentioned, we want to get you covered. And if you want to create an application, you can choose either use native, either use Apache Cordova with a web view, or either use the cross-platform approach. We want you to feel covered and supported, and to have solutions in all the approaches. So we want to bridge the gap between Android and iOS and offer you another way of developing hybrid application. So that's the cross-platform approach. The idea behind that is you have a single source, a single point of code, either in JavaScript, in C#, in Java, whatever. And that code gets compiled and gets transformed by a tool, by a framework, into native code. So that's the idea of the cross-platform approach. And I know that if you investigate the space, there are literally like 10 or more approaches in cross-platform. So for example, there is React Native, there is Ionic, there is Native Script, there is Xamarin. There are a lot of approaches, and sometimes it feels that you can choose the right fit for the solution. We have tried them all, and we have several beta solutions in React Native, Native Script, and Ionic, but we wanted to provide something that with full support and with a full transformation and with full integration with Liferay. And that's the solution we are announcing. That is Liferay Screens for Xamarin. So we have noticed that most enterprise clients, they are choosing Xamarin because several benefits that we are going to discuss later. And we wanted to provide a cross-platform approach that covered you in that space. So that's the reason behind supporting and having full support for library development in Android applications or iOS applications with Xamarin. We are going to see how it's supported. So in the Xamarin approach, you write UI code because, as I mentioned it earlier, the UI part is the hardest one to provide. You have to customize to your the needs of your clients, the colors, the layouts, whatever. You write UI code. You have C# code. That's the logic of our application, of your application, and it's shared between. It can be shared between applications. So you can just write a C# class that connects to your backend, calculates the logic of your application, whatever you need, and then you can use Nuket packages. That's the libraries written in C# or other languages, and that allows you to integrate with native, with the native part, calculate the specific logic, whatever you want. So we are providing Liferay Screens as a Nuget package, and you can download it as it were another dependency, as you were downloading a encoding library, an HTTP library, whatever library you were using with Xamarin. So I'm pretty sure you are questioning how many skillets you can use with Xamarin. The answer is everything, is all of them. So you can use the 20 skillets, and specifically you can use also the web skillet. The full 21 skillets are supported with Xamarin. So you can right now create a Xamarin solution, a Xamarin application, include the Xamarin, the Liferay Screens package, and use all the existing skillets. So right now you could create an application for the 3 platforms and just start using the DL form, web content, web view, whatever you wanted, and it will work right away. So the support is for all the skillets. So it's like a hybrid 2.0. And these applications are rendered with, they are showing a list of assets with the Xamarin. So it's a Xamarin project using the asset list skillet that allows you to render several assets in the way you want. And it feels and it acts as a real application because it's native code. It's completely native code, but it has been passed through several transformations. So we wrote the logic with C#, and it gets transformed to native code in Android, in Java, and in iOS in Objective-C. Okay, so this are the improvements of this solution. We can use the full C# ecosystem. We can get the full Xamarin path. You can write an application with Xamarin and use all the system skillets. We use all the integration with Liferay Screens. This is going to be a native experience. So it's going to generate native code. The transitions between applications, between pages are going to be native. Everything is going to be native. So the users will get a native feel of the application. It's not a web feel. They are not feeling that we are just rendering a web page. Everything is native. We can use all the third-party libraries with NuGet, and there are almost 100,000 libraries that provide us with a lot of features in whichever space you want, whichever features you want. And it's development for all devices. So this is a solution that allows you to write just one application, just the same code once, and be able to render it in Android, iOS, Windows phones, etc. So to be able to use it, it's quite simple. You just have to do 3 steps. They are really, really, really easy. So with either Xamarin IDE you are using, you just have to install the Liferay Screens packages. It's a NuGet library. You will do it in the same way as you are already installing NuGet libraries. If you are using Xamarin, you have a beautiful IDE support which lets you to search the NuGet packages. Just search for Liferay Screens and it's everything. It's all. You have to configure the view. This is an AXML. It's an XML pretty similar to the ones that you write in Android already, native Android, but it's for Xamarin. You would use our skillet, in this case the gallery, the image gallery, pass the attributes you need, like the folder ID, repository ID, whichever you want. Those could be also changed in C# code or dynamically depending on a condition, whichever you wanted. And then this would be the solution in iOS. Just drag and drop in the image gallery skillet and setting the class, the size, and the attributes. That's all. That would be the way of doing it in the iOS UI. And just deploy the application. With this, we would have a native application in Android and iOS, working with Xamarin, and behind with Liferay Screens, rendering an image gallery without having to do anything else. So that would be really easy to create image gallery in both platforms. We could also do it in Windows Phone if we wanted, and we can upload new pictures, see the system pictures, see a detail, see the metadata, etc. So it's really easy integration. Okay. So with this, we think we are providing a solution in all the approaches. So we have in the native part, we have the Liferay Mobile SDK with Liferay Screens, with push, with iOS, with push without support. In the hybrid approach, we are providing the new web view, the new web screenlet that lets you either just render a web page or render a web page enabling Apache Cordova and be able to interact with the native part. And we have a cross-platform with Xamarin. We have also tried React Native, Ionic Native Script. So if you have any questions about it, just feel free to approach me and we can discuss it. But with this, we can think that we can help you creating mobile applications faster and easier with integration with Liferay Portal and Liferay DXP. So that's all. We can talk about Liferay Screens as it's not a rated native application development right now, a library. It's native and hybrid. So please feel free to ask me any questions. Thank you.